Well, first of all, tell me your name and where your shop is.
Arlene Rosemore, and the shop is in Pequot Lakes, Minnesota.
And the name is?
Mother Originals Quilt Shop.
And it's kind of tucked back in the woods,
Second
so.
generation. Yeah, well, yes, and we're in the city limits, but in Minnesota, sometimes 3 blocks out of town is in the woods.
Yes.
And it's a normal thing. People who live in the area think nothing of it.
Uh-huh.
But people from far away say, "Oh my gosh, you live in the woods." you
Yeah.
know? And it's, what, 2 city blocks
Right.
off Main Street?
I'd like to find out a little bit more about your bags that you have. Just lining your walls of your quilt shop. Flower bags.
I'm going to grab one to hold it up.
Okay. Because I didn't realize that in the old days that flour sacks.
I'll sit down so I can
Okay.
get them a little bit.
Can you tell me the story? Obviously, these things have been of interest to you.
Oh, yes. They've been around since, it started in about 1911 when Belgium was, people were starving, and the Americans sent flour and foodstuffs in the bags with the logos on. The women were so grateful that they embroidered them just beautiful and sent them back, smuggled them back. And the idea kind of popped from there, and manufacturers decided, and this was a good way to market products. Also, during the Depression, the president, who it must have been Roosevelt then, wanted them to do more because so the poorer families, the Depression hit families, would have fabric to sew with.
Oh, so there was a real purpose behind these.
Definitely.
And then how did you become so interested in these?
Well, that was all the fabric we had, and there were 6 girls, and we needed a lot of fabric. We had a farm and used a lot of feed, flour, sugar, salt, and it all came in these.
Wow.
And at first, men were designing them, and they were kind of gooky looking, but women got into the designing process, and then they started having a little pizzazz.
Because they're beautiful, but I've never seen a collection of flour sacks.
This is only part of our collection. We have many more than that.
You have, like, how many do you think?
Mary, do we know how many bags we have? Is she saying?
Somewhat over 1,000.
Wow. And you've never cut into any of them?
I don't cut them, but I was always given a lot of scrap bags, and so I was able to use those.
Wow.
And my niece, my sister, her mother passed away, and she said, "Auntie, there's a box of fabric in the closet. It's the ugliest stuff I ever seen, and I know you'd want it." It was feed sacks she had saved. Those I cut up and made into quilts for myself and my sisters. And one had a 16-month display at the Minnesota Historical Society Museum in St. Paul and Landmark Center or something.
Okay, okay. Do you have like a favorite manufacturer? Was there one particular?
No, I don't know one from another
Really?
actually, because there were 81 companies who ended up making these bags, and some went out of business and some came back in. But after 81 companies, no, I have no idea of
Wow.
where they came from. They started out very coarse, and then they ended up into better fabrics at the late 40s, and 51 or 52 was the last ones
Okay.
were manufactured.
Okay, okay. So it's got to make you feel pretty good, I would think, to now that these are very sought after. There's no
Oh,
question
indeed.
about that for quilters,
The
particular.
cheapest ones are $20 a piece, and they go up from there.
Wow.
One gentleman wanted to finish out a collection, and he paid 200 and something for
Yeah.
one.
Huh.
And so it depends upon what it means to you, how valuable they
Yeah.
are. But they are getting very rare.
Yeah.
And I don't know. No, I just wanted to honor that part of our history, I guess.
Well, thank you. I really appreciate your time, and I love what you've done with the Minnesota fabrics this year too. Explain that again. The holes.
Yeah.
And that's where they sewed the
top
bags shut.
Okay.
So when it was actually a feed sack, that's where it was sewed.
And
the
there's
feed
a
was filled
big
inside.
thing, chain stitcher that was hooked to the ceiling,
Yeah.
and huge needles that tore. And so
They're in there forever.
Forever.
You know, you can't
You can't
get
move them
out
around.
like we can now, you know.
Yeah.
So
Wow. Now, this is your daughter?
yes.
Thanks just so much.